Good evening, everyone. I'm Ankit, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis, which goes live every day at 4 p.m. on StudyIQ IAS English channel. Today is 22nd of April, and we are going to discuss important news and articles that have appeared in the newspaper. Now, we'll start our today's discussion by an explained article on Surat's particulate matter emission trading scheme. And why this is in news? Because a study has been conducted on the industries that have actually registered under this emission trading scheme, and it has been highlighted that they were successfully able to reduce their particulate matter pollution. So in that regard, we'll be understanding the concept of emission trading scheme, also alternatively known as cap and trade. So how this tries to control the pollution levels of both greenhouse gases of particulate matter, or for that matter any other pollutants, we'll try to understand in our today's discussion. Now, this is an integral part of environment syllabus. Therefore, relevant topic for this or relevant paper for this topic is GS paper 3. In the second article, which is a very conceptual article given in the economy page of today's Indian Express newspaper, will understand the concept of liquidity coverage ratio and how it is being changed by the RBI in current circumstances. Now, this is a very technical article. So, if you go and read this article in the newspaper, the chances of you understanding it completely is not so good. So, that is why I'm here, okay? My purpose will be to simplify this article and help you understand this concept of liquidity coverage ratio and how can questions appear on this topic in the exams, okay? So that is why we'll discuss this topic, which is relevant from banking and finance, and therefore the relevant paper again is GS paper 3. In the third article, we'll be understanding about the US's central bank, that is US Federal Reserve. Because ongoing, the President Trump has actually threatened the chairperson of the US Federal Reserve that please toe his or her line, otherwise he will be removed from office. So what is the basic features of Federal Reserve, how it compares to RBI, all of this we are going to cover in our today's discussion. Again, this becomes relevant from GS paper 3 and also from GS paper 2 perspective, which deals with important regulatory authorities, right? Then in the fourth article, we'll be understanding about the Ghar Mein Nal, that is Jal Jeevan Mission. Now, this Jal Jeevan Mission was in news actually because the ministry responsible for implementing the scheme, Ministry of Jal Shakti, has asked for more money to implement this scheme. So, whether or not government is going to provide them the extra funds, that is the matter of question. But this brings us to a more important topic about this particular scheme, how it wants to be implemented, what is the funding pattern, all of this we are going to understand in our today's discussion. Now, this scheme is relevant from GS paper 2. If you understand the syllabus, you'll see that important government interventions in the social sector and its impact is important from the GS paper 2 perspective. That is why we are going to cover this. Now, in the fifth article, the article that we missed out on yesterday's discussion because of want of time, we'll be covering it today. That is UNESCO's Memory of World Register, because two of India's important literature, that is Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastra, they have been included in this register. Increasing the number of Indian included stuff in that register to 12. So we'll try to understand what is this Memory of World Register all about and few details regarding Bhagavad Gita as well as the Natya Shastra. So this is relevant from GS paper 1 perspective, that is the syllabus of art and culture. And in the last article, which I have picked up from PIB, we'll be understanding India's fight against the disease called as anemia. So what is anemia? How is India looking to fight it? And also we'll be solving a PYQ which appeared in the exam, that is the prelims examination. So these are the 6 articles that we are going to cover in our today's discussion. And after that, and the notes of this session as usual will be available on my Telegram channel. This Telegram channel is called ATS Live. So you can subscribe to this channel. You will be getting the notes free of cost every day, and also there is a separate group called as ATS discussion. Within that only you can use it to solve the doubts. You can ask me the doubts and also you can ask your fellow peers the doubts. The problem of creating a separate group for discussions is to inculcate the habit of problem solving, right? Because essentially what we are going to do in the exam, we are going to solve the questions. That means you need not carry any doubt in your mind. So please use that for maximum potential and also help it to clear all your doubts, okay? Now, good evening, Yashi, Augustine, Amar, Sarang, Bhanu, Baga, Sojanya. Well, Amar had posted a red face earlier. I don't know why he has deleted it. Amar, क्या reason था? So until Amar answers, we'll start with our discussion. This article I've picked up from the explain section, and you can read how the world's first market for trading in particulate emissions in Gujarat works. This highlights the study conducted in the city of Surat, which is known for its industrial location. Now Surat has important industrial industries, particularly from two sectors. First is gems and jewelry, that is the diamond polishing industries very flourishing in Surat, and additionally textile industry is also there in Surat. So that is why, being an important industrial location, we would want Surat to control its overall emissions of greenhouse gases and particulate matter. So for that, India is altogether a first market for trading in emissions, for trading in particulate matter. It was set up in the city of Surat. Now there was this study conducted, and it has highlighted that this emission trading scheme has helped the city to reduce pollution by 20 to 30% in its industrial cluster. So that means that the emission trading system is actually working when it comes to Surat. So in our today's discussion, what becomes important is what is this emissions trading system and how has actually Surat benefited from it. So both of this we'll try to discuss in our today's discussion. Now very simply, first let us try to understand what is an emission trading scheme. Now, emission trading scheme is basically a regulatory tool or a market-based mechanism which is designed to reduce air pollution. Now, how does this help to reduce air pollution? It is known as a concept of cap and trade. So, for example, if I am a regulator of pollution in a particular city, hypothetically, okay, so I make it a point of imposing limits on how much a particular factory or a particular industry can emit in terms of, say, carbon dioxide or in terms of PM 2.5 or 2.10. That is immaterial. For today's example, let us consider, say, there is one factory in Surat. It is a big factory, and I hold that factory can only emit 100 tons of carbon dioxide in a particular year. So this is the limit that I have imposed on a factory A. Similarly, there might be similar factories of, there might be other factories of similar size. So similarly, factories A, B, C, I have imposed them the limit that they can only emit 100 tons of CO2 every year. So this is how I limit. So suppose in a year 2024, factory A emits 95 tons of CO2. Whereas factory B emits 110 tons of CO2 and factory C emits 90 tons of CO2. And this, what was the limit of all these factories? It was 100 tons of CO2. So you can understand factory B is more polluting in nature as compared to factory C and factory A. There are factory A and factory C, they are emitting less amount of carbon dioxide as per their limit. So what factory A and C can do is they can sell the excess amount of limit that is there with them. So suppose factory A is left with 5 tons of CO2 in excess, factory C is left with 10 tons of CO2, whereas factory B has overshot its target by 10 tons of CO2. So what factory B can do, it can make it up for it by buying the credits from either factory A or factory B or both of them, right? So that is how the emission trading system works. Suppose if I am a factory and I am emitting less amount of carbon dioxide as per the limit. So I'll have excess amount of carbon dioxide left with me. So what I can do, I can sell it to other companies who might be polluting more than what is required. So they'll give me money in return for me providing them the credit. This is how this system works. Understand? Good evening, Priyalata. Good evening, Jashomanta. I don't know if I am pronouncing your name right. Any doubt in how this cap and trade system works? So industries that pollute less can sell their unused permits. Similarly, industries that have exceeded their limits, they can buy permits to remain compliant from the industries who have permits left with them. So this is how cap and trade system works. So basically this is emissions trading system. It can be used for emissions of carbon dioxide, it can be used for emissions of other greenhouse gases. Similarly, it can also be used for emissions of other particulate matters. So this is how I impose a limit and then make factories adhere to that limit. So if they are emitting less than the limit, they can sell the excess credit, and if they are emitting more than the limit, they have to buy it from other companies and provide them money in return. So the objective of this emission trading scheme is to first of all reduce pollution in a very cost effective and a flexible way. So I am just being imposed a limit. It is actually my decision whether I can emit more carbon dioxide, or I can emit more greenhouse gases, and to compensate for it, I have to provide money to the companies who are not emitting that much. Also, it helps industries incentivize to invest in cleaner technology, because if I am emitting more than what is required, I'll have to spend extra money to buy those credit. So why don't I use that particular money to invest in cleaner technology, so that in coming future I do not emit what is more than required. Similarly, it replaces punitive regulatory enforcement with market based mechanism. Earlier, what the government used to do, they used to penalize the companies, and for that government had to maintain a long list of employees who will first of all monitor how much the emissions are currently being underpaid by the company, and then penalize the company by imposing fines. And also this opens the avenues of corruption, so that companies can actually pay some money to the officials who are corrupt, and then they will ignore the imposition of penalty. So that is why corruption is negated. This replacement or punitive regulatory enforcement, it is based, or it is replaced by a market based mechanism which provides for a more flexible way of emission, right? Now, what is India's current model? Just remove Surat from consideration. Now, let us understand what is India's current model for pollution control. Now, currently, central and state regulators, that in cases of central government, it is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Similarly, Central Pollution Control Board, who are responsible for monitoring at center level. Similarly, at state level, it is State Pollutant Control Boards who monitor and then penalize the violators. So, it can actually be that the regulatory burden will be quite high on government. Similarly, the companies will have to meet the standards. Also, it incentivizes corruption. So, to eliminate these things, we have come up with emission trading system. So, the problem with this is, first of all, government has shortage of staff, inefficient enforcement, so government can't monitor everyone, so technically the polluters will be left out by the government, and also it faces bureaucratic red tape. Now, this is also one size fits approach that doesn't account into size and capacity of industry. Now, the benefit of this cap and trade system is that according to the factory's potential, I can impose different kind of a limit. So naturally, the big factories will be given somewhat bigger limit, smaller factories will have smaller limits. So this is how this market based trading system works. It is better than the government's regulatory enforcement system, which can lead to inefficient enforcement, which can lead to corruption, which can lead to red tape, and also sometimes we witness that it can lead to staff shortage, which leads to less amount of regulatory enforcement. Now, this ETS system has many advantages. First of all, it is flexible. It allows smaller units to buy time to purchase permit. Suppose there is a smaller factory and I have imposed 100 tons of CO2 limit on them, but they are emitting only 50 tons of CO2. So, for the rest 50 or tons of CO2 credits which they have residual, they can use it to sell it to other companies, and then these companies will provide them with money which they can use to implement better machinery and implement pollution reducing technology. Similarly, it is self-regulating in nature. That is, government inspection, there is less burden on government to inspect. Only what it has to do is has to monitor that what is the emission levels of the company, and rest of all, everything will be settled by the market based mechanism. So this is the advantage of emission based trading system. Therefore, it has been implemented. Now, let's see why is Surat ETS is in use. Surat ETS, that is emission trading system, is the first ETS system in the world to target particulate matter. Other ETS systems or emission trading systems, they have targeted greenhouse gases. And also, this is India's first emission market for any pollutant. It is India's first market for particulate matter. It is first market for greenhouse gases. And this was started in 2019 across 342 highly polluting industries to control the pollution of fine particulate pollution which is emitted due to use of solid fuel sources like coal, lignite, diesel, etc. Similarly, the findings of the study that was conducted on the Surat emission trading scheme, it is found out that participating plants have reduced their pollution by 20 to 30%. A total of 162 plants were studied. Those under ETS, they performed better than those who are under the standard top-down regulation. And similarly, ETS plants had permit to cover emissions for 99% of the time, and non-ETS plants, they failed to meet norms for nearly 1/3 of the study period, which was almost 2 years. So that is why, according to the study, market-based mechanism is more effective as compared to the government regulatory measures. Understand? You have any doubt? Now is the right time to answer. Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. सारंग, भानु, बागा, अमर, सुमित, सौजन्या, प्रियालता, जाशोमांता, ऑगस्टीन, यशी. Well, ETS is a market-based regulatory approach that sets cap on total emissions and allows trading of emission permits among industries. This is correct. Under ETS, regulatory bodies directly penalize violators for exceeding emission limits through command and control methods. This is incorrect. ETS deals with this. This is a top-down method. ETS is a market-based mechanism. One of the key objectives of ETS is to replace rigid regulatory enforcement with flexible market-driven mechanism to reduce pollution. So, third, first correct, second incorrect. Therefore, option B is the right answer. Baga, Sarang, Amar, Yashi, Vaishali, all of you are right. Now, moving to the next article of the day. This article appeared in the economy section of the Indian Express newspaper. Do not try to read this article. This is very confusing. My job is to help you simplify this article, so please pay close attention to this discussion. This is all what you need for this article in particular. Now, what this article says, that Reserve Bank of India, India's central bank, it has eased the liquidity coverage ratio norms under which the banks will be required to assign an additional 2.5% of runoff factor for digital deposits. So, what is important from our discussion? First is liquidity coverage ratio, LCR. And another factor, what is important, is runoff factor. So, what are these two terms? Let me explain it very simply. Now, LCR, liquidity coverage ratio, is known as a ratio which highlights when you divide institutionals' high quality liquid assets, for example, how much amount of money that the banks hold in, say, government securities, in cash, or government securities issued by any foreign government, to its total net cash flow over a definite amount of time. In India's, it is considered as a 30-day period. So, effectively, LCR is nothing but a ratio between, say, high quality liquid asset by total net cash flow. Now, what is net cash flow? Let me highlight you very simply. Suppose a very big bank in India, private bank, in a 30-day period, net outflows or the money flowing out of bank A is rupees 150 crore. And the money coming inside bank B, that is inflow to bank A, is rupees 50 crore. So, what is net outflow of the bank? Net outflow of the bank is 150 crore minus 50 crore. So, net outflow of the bank A for 1 month period becomes rupees 100 crore. And suppose out of this 100 crore outflow, a bank A has high quality liquid assets worth 70%, which means 70 crore of the rupees with bank A is in form of cash, in form of government securities, and this is called as high quality liquid asset. So, in that regard, LCR for bank A becomes 70%, right? So, this is how LCR is calculated. You calculate net cash flow, which is the difference between total cash going out of the bank and total cash coming into the bank. How does cash go out of the bank? If bank extends loans. How does cash comes into the bank? When people make deposits in the bank. Easy? Any doubt up till now? Please let me know. If no doubt, then only I'll move forward. Waiting for your answer so that I move forward. So, this is LCR. Now, suppose a bank who needs to have a high liquid cash, so that if suppose the depositors in the bank, people like you and I, if we approach the bank if we want our deposits back, so the bank should be able to pay our money back, right? So that is why what RBI has done, that it has mandated the banks to maintain 100% LCR. That is, every net outflow of the bank, they need to keep it with them in form of high liquid assets like cash and government securities. But also, there are some kinds of deposit which are more liquid in nature. Suppose now with the onset of online banking, with net banking, with mobile banking, it has become easier for us to deposit our money into the banks and take out our money into the banks, because we need not go to the bank physically. Rather, we can open our mobile phones, we can power our laptops and do the transaction automatically. So that is why now the time has come that the banks, or the money coming into and money going out of the banks, they move quite quickly. So that is why RBI has imposed additional requirements. RBI says that beyond this 100% LCR, you also need to keep certain amount of money known as runoff factor. That in case of additional requirement in some accounts, like accounts which has business accounts, because in business accounts, you know, transactions happen all the time. It happens that money might be coming into the business account and they might be paying it to some other raw materials also. So that is why such accounts have high economic activity as compared to retail accounts. So that is why additional requirement of runoff factor is imposed on the banks, or on the certain banks. This is known as additional requirement of 5% is imposed for stable deposits, whereas some less stable deposits of smaller businesses, the banks need to keep 10% of extra money as runoff factor on top of their obligations under the liquidity or the LCR factor. Okay, now what the RBI has done, this was the earlier LCR requirement and the runoff factor requirement. Now what RBI has done, it has further increased this by 2.5% for all the banks from 1st April 2026 onwards. Sonam Singh, please explain, please repeat. Yashi, do you what you want me to repeat? Baga Spinks also. Now suppose this is bank A. Okay, bank A is a very big bank. So suppose in a particular day, net money going out of bank A in a particular 30-day period was rupees 150 crore. Whereas money coming into A, that is inflows, was rupees 50 crore. So what is the net outflow? Net outflow is the difference between outflow and inflow, that is rupees 100 crore. Okay, and this is for a 30-day period. Now out of this 100 crores of net outflow, suppose bank A keeps 70 crore rupees in highly liquid asset like cash, government securities. So therefore, the LCR of this bank becomes what? 70 crore by 100 crore, which is what? 70%, right? So LCR here of bank A becomes 70%, but RBI says that you need not keep it 70%, you have to keep all the net outflows in your highly liquid asset, which means all the banks, bank A, bank B, bank C, all of them have to at least maintain 100 crore in their liquid asset, which means LCR of what? 100%. Any doubts up till now? Baga? Yashi? So this is how LCR is calculated, that whatever be the net outflow of the bank, they have to keep every money of it in form of cash or government securities, which means banks will have to maintain LCR of 100%. Now, another factor is that banks understand now that with onset of online banking, it has become easier for everyone, those who have deposited their money into the banks, to take that money out. Suppose you and I must be using net banking, okay? We use UPI, right? So how easy it has become for us to withdraw money from the bank accounts. Earlier we had to go to ATMs, we have to take the money in form of cash. Similarly, we could have gone to bank's counter and withdraw the money by giving them the slip. That took time. Now with onset of online banking, it has become quite easy for us. So now banks understand, or the RBI understand, that the liquidity concerns of banks increase. So that is why it is imposing additional money requirement that the banks need to keep in addition of what is LCR mandated to them. So for some stable accounts, banks mandate that you need to keep 5% extra money over and above LCR requirement, and for less stable deposit accounts, you need to keep 10% of funds over and above the LCR requirement. So this is what the RBI mandated is on the banks. Now this additional requirement, also known as runoff factor, this has been further increased by RBI by 2.5% for all the accounts, right? So let us see what the changes RBI has made. RBI has made that from 1st of April next year, that is 2026, for all general deposits, banks will have to keep 100% as LCR, that is fixed. And for stable retail and small business deposits who have mobile and internet banking, you need to keep 10% LCR, 5% as runoff factor, and 2.5% additional money that has been imposed now. So therefore, the total amount of money is what? 107.5% of the net outflow. Right? Now for less stable retail and small business deposits who have mobile and internet banking, they need to keep 100% LCR to thai. This one was runoff factor, and now 2.5% additional, which means 112.5% of net outflows. Understand? Any doubt? Well, government securities is liquid because you can sell government securities in the market like stocks. People are always willing to buy government securities because giving the money to the government is the safest form of deposit. Government kabhi कंगाल नहीं होगी और government will never go bankrupt. So that is why government securities are very liquid. You can always sell them in the market and get your money as soon as possible. Yes, they are less liquid than cash, but in terms of overall liquidity, government securities are very liquid in nature. Understand this concept? Now, if you understand this, let's see if you are able to solve this question or not. Yes, gilt-edged security. Gilt-edged security means they are highly liquid and also it is certain that the government will return your money. कहीं भागे नहीं जा रही government. See, the primary objective of LCR is to ensure that financial institutions have enough high quality liquid asset to survive a short term liquidity stress scenario. A higher runoff factor applied to certain types of deposit indicate greater confidence in their long term stability. It is incorrect. It highlights lesser confidence in their long term security. So second statement incorrect. First one is right. So option A is the right answer. Baga, Reshma, Soham, you're correct. Sarang and Soma, please reread the question again. Yashi also correct. Now, banking and finance is a very important topic, also a very dynamic topic. What happens in banking and finance? You can be sure about the concept, but you won't be sure about the amount of changes that happens in a particular concept. So, suppose LCR will be same for every year, but what we need to do or what we need to understand that how and why is RBI changing the LCR requirements or how and why RBI is changing the runoff factor. So, for that, we provide detailed coverage of the economy in the banking and finance section in our foundation batches. And this right now, the April morning batch has been ongoing and the date for taking the platinum course is today, and the benefits of you getting admissions in platinum course until today is that you will be upgraded to diamond free of cost. So basically you will need to pay money only for the platinum cases until now, and for that you will be upgraded to diamond courses free of cost. How to take admissions in the class? Go to our website. Sorry, why is this zooming out? Yeah. Go to our website, create an account here, click on explore courses. As soon as you click on explore courses, why is this behaving strangely? Let me refresh it. As soon as you click on explore courses, you will be provided a tile here, and after refreshing this, you will see an option here on the top half of your screen that says you to scroll a course. Click on UPSC IAS English. Here, the first batch, you can take the admissions here for April morning batch, and as you can see from this, right now, you can buy a platinum plan and get upgraded to the diamond plan. To buy diamond and platinum plan, what you need to do is you need to add an offer code if you want to get maximum discount. How you can do it? Enter the coupon code ATS live here, click on apply. As soon as you click on apply, see the course fees for platinum is 29,999. For diamond it has reduced to 34,999, but believe me, for today if you are taking the admission, click on this platinum, buy it for 29,999, you will be upgraded to diamond free of cost. Okay. And you will get the maximum discounts only when you apply the code ATS Live. So please do not forget to make sure to get your maximum amount or value for money in the StudyIQ courses. The benefits of platinum and gold and diamond is here. I will put that in my notes also. You can take a look at it after I upload the notes. So moving to the next article of the day, this article appeared in the yesterday's Indian Express newspaper, and also I saw an important article in the website of the Indian Express newspaper. So for our today's discussion, I've combined both of them because this upper article actually deals with an issue that whether or not executive can remove the head of the central bank, but mostly it is something related to the politics of United States, not that much relevant from our exams perspective. But when you read this article, you'll realize how this article has beautifully compared Federal Reserve of United States with the Reserve Bank of India. So we need to understand first of all few details about Federal Reserve of United States, and then we'll understand the comparison of how similar or how different is RBI and Federal Reserve. Okay. Now, why we are discussing Federal Reserve is because United States President Donald Trump has threatened that please toe the line. He has threatened the federal chair, that is Jerome Powell. Actually, Jerome Powell is trying to control the inflation in United States. So for that, he is not reducing the policy rate of United States, that is also known as Fed rate. So Donald Trump feels that when the Federal Reserve is not reducing the policy rate, eventually it will push the growth prospects of US economy down. So that is why United States President has threatened that please reduce the policy rate, otherwise I will fire you. So this kind of political bickering not important. What is important is few facts related to US Federal Reserve. Now this is the world's most powerful economic institution naturally because this is the central bank of world's largest economy. So any decision made by Federal Reserve, we understand it impacts India's economy as well. Now in United States, Federal Reserve is responsible for doing what? It is responsible for managing monetary policy and regulating the financial system and the banking system of the United States, similar to what RBI does in India. Now the mandate officially of the Federal Reserve first of all is to ensure price stability, which is keeping the inflation under control. And as we have seen, due to imposition of tariffs, it is expected that inflation levels in the US market is expected to increase. So therefore, according to law of the land and also according to the mandate given to the Federal Reserve, the federal chair is highlighting that his primary responsibility is to control the inflation in United States. So that is why he is not reducing the policy rate, because what reducing the policy rate means, it will increase the money supply, which will exacerbate this increase in inflation, not reduce it. After it had achieved price stability, then the mandate of the Federal Reserve is to ensure maximum sustainable employment, which means keeping unemployment levels low. And how can you keep unemployment levels low? By promoting economic growth, right? So these are two different mandates given to the Federal Reserve. First mandate is price stability, second mandate is maximum sustainable employment. Now, how this Federal Reserve works within the structure of United States government. Now, this is a part of United States government, but also independent from it, because it is not under the control of White House, which represents the executive of United States government. Rather, it is accountable to the Parliament or the legislature of the United States, which is known as US Congress, right? So this is how this functions in the US economy. Now, let us also understand the structure of Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is first of all on the apex level is represented by the Board of Governors, where 7 members they are appointed by the President and they need to be confirmed by the Senate, which is the upper house of the United States legislature. Now this 7 members, it also includes chair, who is currently Jerome Powell, and vice chair, who is chosen from among them. So among 7 members there will be 1 chair and 6 other members, including the vice chair. Now the tenure of the duration that they serve in office is 14 years and the chair serves at a 4-year tenure, which is renewable. Now this body also oversees the entire Federal Reserve System and sets broader policies as far as financial system of United States is concerned. Now, on the other hand, it also includes 12 regional Federal Reserve banks which conduct research, supervise banks and participate in the monetary policy implementation. And also, like India's Monetary Policy Committee, there is a Federal Open Market Committee whose main job is to make monetary policy decision that whether or not to increase or decrease the interest rates in the economy. And as you can understand, MPC in India, it has a mandate to meet at least 4 times a year. Similarly, the FOMC in US, which is equivalent of MPC in India, it has to meet 8 times a year to decide on monetary policy stance. right? So this actually decides whether or not to increase or decrease the interest rates in the economy. Now let us very quickly understand the difference between the Federal Reserve as well as the India's Reserve Bank of India. Now it was established before compared to RBI. RBI was established in 1935, whereas Federal Reserve was established in 1913. It is headed by a Fed chair. In RBI, the head of RBI is known as RBI Governor. Fed chair is appointed by President of India, and as I've already told you, they need to be confirmed by the upper house of United States Legislature, that is called as Senate. Whereas in India, the RBI Governor is appointed by the Union government. In particular, it is appointed by the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet. The tenure is that for Chair of Federal Reserve, the tenure is 4 years, which can be renewed, and for other members it is 14 years, that are known as Governors of United States Federal Reserve. Whereas for India's RBI Governor, term is 3 years, which can be extended to maximum of 2 years, right? Any doubts? Now, the main mandate of United States Federal Reserve is price stability. Secondary mandate is ensuring employment. Whereas for India's RBI, first mandate is inflation targeting, that is to keep the inflation at the levels of 4 plus minus 2% of what? Of consumer price index. And another mandate is to ensure monetary stability. The policy body which is responsible for increasing or deciding on whether to increase or reduce the interest rate, it is known as FOMC. In India, it is known as MPC. Ownership of the United States Federal Reserve, that it is an independent public institution, whereas ownership of the RBI, that 100% of RBI is owned by Government of India because it was nationalized in 1949. The United States government, it can't legally issue any guideline or direction to the Federal Reserve, whereas Union government in India usually does not extend any kind of directions to the RBI. However, in certain exceptional circumstances, there is a power under Section 7 of the RBI which has not been invoked until now. It can be used to issue directions in what? In public interest. Now, the removal of the chairperson of the Federal Reserve can be done for cause, that is for misconduct or incapacity, but not for policy disagreement. Whereas in India, it is not explicitly defined in the RBI Act. How can you remove the governor? However, the removal might be influenced by the government. So, sometimes when the government makes it difficult for the RBI governor to work, he or she may resign from the office, right? So, this is how we compare these two institutions. Now, let us move to the next article. This also appeared in the yesterday's newspaper, and it talks about that Jal Shakti Ministry wants additionally 2.9 lakh crore rupees more for its flagship water scheme, that is Jal Jeevan Mission. Now, the panel which is responsible for clearing whether or not to give additional amount, it has actually cleared only the half amount of money. So, this is important from which perspective? From the perspective of GS2 syllabus, right? That is policy intervention in the important sector. Now, what is important from our today's discussion? We need to understand that Expenditure Finance Committee, which comes under the Ministry of Finance, it has halved the funding for the extended period of Jal Jeevan Mission. So, from our today's discussion, what becomes important? This scheme and how this body functions. Similarly, there are serious concerns over inflated costs by the states and also irregularities in allocating contracts. So, from our today's discussion perspective, we'll keep our discussion to Jal Jeevan Mission and to the Expenditure Finance Committee. First, let us deal with the Jal Jeevan Mission. This was launched on the Independence Day in 2019 by Prime Minister of India. This was actually when the government came back into power in 2019. So, this was the first independence of NDA 2. Now, the implementing ministry was Ministry of Jal Shakti, and the objective of this scheme is to provide functional household tap connection, FHTCs, which means running tap water connection, to all rural households in India by December 2024 under the Har Ghar Jal scheme. Now, earlier in its first tenure, the government of India started what? It started to a mission to construct toilets in every home. Now, the second part of this mission naturally is you have to construct or provide running water connections to all the households. So, this was done through Jal Jeevan Mission, and the target was that 16 crore rural households will be covered by installations of functional household tap connections, or very simply running tap water. So, running tap water is something very basic in our houses, but for many people in India, it is considered a luxury. So, when many of the rural households did not have it, government made it a point to implement such kind of a provision. decision. Now, the funding pattern of the scheme is somewhat different, and you need to remember that. I've told you in centrally sponsored schemes, the funding pattern is 60% of the funds is provided by union government, 40% is provided by state governments. Whereas for central sector scheme, 90 or 100% of the funding is provided by the union government, and this is somewhat different for Jal Jeevan Mission. Funding pattern is 50-50 for sharing between center and states for most of the states. For Himalayan states and northeastern states, it is 90-10, whereas 100% of central funding is provided to union territory. So this is what you have to remember, that it is not 60-40 in this case, it is 50-50. Now, the status of this scheme currently is that 75% of tap connections has been delivered in 5 years. Now, there are about 4 crore connections that are still pending, and for that, the ministry has actually asked for more time. That is, they need to be implemented until December 2028 to complete the remaining work. So, for that, the ministry has also asked for separate funds. So, the body which is responsible for okaying the funds, they have only okayed half amount, whatever has been asked by the ministry. Okay. So, in this regard, what becomes important is Expenditure Finance Committee. Now, this is a crucial body which functions under Union Department of Expenditure under Ministry of Finance. Now, it is responsible for appraising and approving public funded scheme and projects with budgetary allocation. So, suppose if government allocates certain budget to me, and if I need more money out of it, I need to put in a request to Expenditure Finance Committee. It will study why am I asking more funds, and then it will recommend to the government, see, this is what you need to give it to them. Now, this body, what it does is that ensures that government spending is efficient and aligned with the overall fiscal policy objective, and it is chaired by whom? It is chaired by the Expenditure Secretary of the Union Government. Now, even if the EFC recommends cost cutting, the final decision is not binding on the Union Cabinet, rather it vests with the Union Government, which can override sometimes the recommendations of EFCs based on political circumstances. So, this is only a recommendatory body. Its recommendation is not binding on the government, rather the ultimate authority of every decision made by the government is Union Cabinet. Okay. Now, let's see if you are able to solve this question. Well, last option, let me allow so that you can see the last option. The primary role of EFC is to ensure fiscal prudence by appraising the financial viability and necessity of large public funded projects. This is correct. EFC functions under the Ministry of Finance and is chaired by the Expenditure Secretary. Again correct. The recommendations of EFC are binding on the Union Cabinet, especially in matters relating to cost and budget approval. This is incorrect. Second one is right. First one is right. So 1 and 2, option C is the right answer. Amar, Reshma, Sarang, Sonam, Baga, every one of you are right. Sir, shouldn't the inflow be greater than outflow? Well, this is only for a particular 30-day period. Bank does not function for 30-day period. It has funds that it has been deposited since years in the banks, right? Similarly, banks also has their own capital. So, technically, net outflow or inflow can change. We are only deciding about a 30-day period. Suppose if you are not provided a salary in 1 month, one particular month, that doesn't mean you'll go bankrupt. You might have some money with you already. Similarly, banks, they have a lot of money. Do not worry. So, I hope I've addressed your requirement. Favor 8 gaming. Now, let us discuss this yesterday's article which we missed out on because of the obligation of time. Now, this article highlights Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastras will be included in the UNESCO's register. So, what is this register we are talking about? It is called as UNESCO's Memory of World Register, and two very important piece of literature, Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, have been inscribed in it. So, what becomes important from our exam? These 3 information. Okay. So, let us start with UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. This was established in 1992, and the aim of establishing this register is to preserve and make it accessible the documentary heritage that is there with humanities. It can be manuscripts, it can be oral traditions, it can be audiovisual materials, or even archive holdings. Now, this Memory of World Register is a list of documents that hold global significance in terms of history, in terms of culture, in terms of social impact. And we understand these two documents, they have all these three importance. Now, total number of items that have been inscribed in the collection of Memory of Register, it is 570, and from India, after inclusion of Gita and Natya Shastra, this number has reached 14 entries in the world's Memory of Register. So let us now understand few details about Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastra. Now, how many of you have read Bhagavad Gita, or how many of you have read Mahabharata? I'm talking about reading, not watching the TV shows that appear on YouTube. Anyone? Swamar has read none of them. Anyone else? See, I don't know how many of you have read Gita. So when you start reading the Gita, the first line itself, it talks about the dilemma that the warrior Arjun in Mahabharata was facing. What happened in Mahabharata? That sons of two brothers, Dhritarashtra and Pandu, they were fighting a war over who controls the capital or the territory of Indraprastha, right? So there were two parties to it. Under one party, there was this brilliant archer known as Arjuna, whose chariot was steered by none other than Lord Krishna. So this Bhagavad Gita actually is the conversation that happened during the war period, during the Mahabharata event between Arjun and his Sarathi Krishna. So what Lord Krishna used to do, that whenever Arjun posed any kind of question to Lord Krishna gave brilliant answers to it. So their conversation is regarded and kept and stored in what is known as Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So when you read the first line of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Arjun is saying that in front of me are my own brothers and I am fighting their war against them. So how can I actually fight a war against them, and how can I actually kill them? So what Lord Krishna says back to the Arjun, that it is, you are a Kshatriya by nature. So it is your dharma, or it is your obligation or a duty to fight a war for what is right. So this is how the dilemmas that were in front of Arjuna, it was resolved by Lord Krishna. So that is why Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a very important text of how one should follow their own dharma. So that is why this philosophical discourse that occurred on the battlefield of Mahabharata, especially in Kurukshetra, between Arjun on one hand and Lord Krishna on one another, it is written in the Bhagavad Gita. So technically, this might be Mahabharata, a subsect of Mahabharata is Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it contains of 700 verses in 18 chapter, and it is embedded within the Bhishma Parv Adhyay or chapter of the epic Mahabharata, and this Bhagavad Gita was written by Maharshi Vedvyas. So this is what you have to remember. Now another important literature is Natya Shastra. I hope you have read Natya Shastra in your art and culture. If you have not, please follow this discussion. Now Natya Shastra, also known as Natya Ved or Gandharva Ved, it was written by Saint Bharat Muni. Now this Natya Shastra serves as a foundational guide to Indian theatre, poetics, aesthetics and dance and music. Now what this Natya Shastra does is lays down an elaborate framework of various art forms covering everything from Natya, which is another name from drama, Abhinay, which means performance, Ras, which means aesthetic essence, Bhav, which means emotion, and Sangeet, which means music. Now this Natya Shastra comprises of 36,000 verses, and it is believed to have derived from oral tradition. And also alternatively, sometimes it is also known as fifth Ved. Okay. So if any question comes which says fifth Ved, automatically you should tick Natya Shastra. Okay. Let's see if you are able to solve this question now. Well, Gita and Natya Shastra are first Indian entries in the MOW register. It is incorrect. Now with their inclusion, there are total 14 registries. First two are correct. So it is about 570 in total. So therefore, second statement becomes right. Option A is the right answer. Priyalata, please read the question again. Sonam, Reshma, Amar, Yashi, Sarang, correct. Vaishnavi, please reread the question again. Now let us move to the last article. I saw this article in PIB. It was a very detailed article about India's fight against anemia. So in that regard, let us try to discuss it. Why this article was given? Because National Health Family Survey, 5th edition of this survey, has highlighted that 67% of children and 59% of adolescent girls in India, they are anemic in nature. So what becomes important from our today's discussion perspective? This disease known as anemia. Now, anemia is actually a blood disorder that happens whenever the blood, it does not have enough amount of healthy red blood cells or hemoglobin. Now, whenever there is not enough amount of healthy blood cells or hemoglobin, it will actually prevent your body from delivering enough oxygen from your brain or from your other parts of the body to your organs and tissue. And whenever your organs and tissue does not or will not have an adequate amount of oxygen, they will surely malfunction. Now, the population who are more vulnerable for getting anemia are children under 5 years of age, menstruating adolescent girls, women, and pregnant and postpartum women. So these are the more vulnerable populations, right? Now, what are the causes of anemia? Ultimately, the most common cause that have been highlighted, at least in media, it is the deficiency of iron. But you have to highlight only 9% of anemia cases could be attributed to iron deficiencies, whereas there are 22% of cases that are linked to unknown causes, which sometimes are not measured properly or they are not able to found properly by the healthcare professional, and this is where the big issue occurs. Now, this can be due to deficiencies in vitamin B12 or folate. It can be due to the problem of hemoglobinopathies, which is a genetic disorder affecting hemoglobin, and also it can be due to undetected blood loss and unhygienic environments or air pollution, right? So these are the unknown causes that cause as much as 1/4 of the total amount of cases relating to anemia. Now, to control or to combat anemia in India, government came up with a strategy known as Anemia Mukt Bharat, which means to eradicate anemia from India. It was launched in 2018, and the strategy that was launched was known as 6x6x6 strategy, under which there are 6 interventions to reduce the prevalence of anemia, that is through nutritional and non-nutritional interventions in 6 age groups, and for that 6 institutional mechanisms will be created. So this are what 6 is: 6 interventions, 6 age groups, and 6 institutional mechanisms. So let us quickly understand what are included in the Anemia Mukt strategy. Now let me deal with it. Now, 6 beneficiaries of Anemia Mukt strategy, you can understand these are children between 5 to 9 years, women of their reproductive age 15 to 49 years of age, lactating women, pregnant women, adolescent women between 10 to 19 years of age, and children between 6 to 59 months. So these are the intended 6 beneficiaries of the scheme. Now, what are the 6 interventions that have been planned by the government? Prophylactic iron and folic acid supplements, periodic deworming that should happen in children, intensified year-round behavior change communication campaign, testing of anemia using digital invasive hemoglobometer, mandatory provisions for iron, folic acid fortified foods. For that, government has came up with fortified rice. Addressing non-nutritional causes of anemia in endemic pockets. So these are the 6 interventions that have been planned by the government. Now, what is the 6 institutional mechanism that have been created? First of all, to coordinate the implementation, an interministerial coordination committee has been formed. Convergence with other ministries will also happen so that the interventions happen without any delay. The government will strengthen supply chain and logistics. It will engage a national center of excellence. Advanced research on anemia control will also happen, and monitoring using the digital AMB dashboard. So these are the 6 institutional mechanisms that have been planned. Now, this is the PYQ that actually appeared in the year 2023. Please solve this PYQ. Let me know the correct answer in the comment section. And with this, we conclude our today's session. I'll see you again tomorrow at 4 Please make sure to mark the correct answer in the comment section, and if you have any doubt, you know where to ask. This is the Telegram channel where I upload the notes, and also you can use this Telegram channel to solve the doubts. So this is all from my side. I'll see you again. Please have a very pleasant evening and a